Well, first I want to say thank you to the AAAV. This has not only been an amazing ride, it has been an honor. And to be chosen to be the new VP means so much to me. I've been in this industry a long time, owning a Love Corkscrew for 11 years, but prior to that, I used to work for Wertz Beverage, which is now Breakthrough. I used to own a bar, some things that people don't know. So I've been in this trifecta of this industry. And what was missing back in the 90s when I started was all of you. And it warms my heart to see you all here, see you all winning in so many different sectors of the field, right? In so many different moving parts that this industry has. And we need to, and as I always say, and people know I've coined it, need to break every glass ceiling till there's no more to be broken. So I'm very, very excited, and I'm more excited to be here with this gentleman. So literally, oh gosh, it was like 6 months ago, I think, approximately. I'm not going to tell the whole story. I'm not going to tell the whole story, just a little bit of the story. So I met this gentleman officially at the WSWA event in Florida. We had a AAAV table there at the WSWA. And when I first met him, he literally treated me like family, like in the first 5 minutes, hugged me like I knew him. I'm like, I know of you. And he made me feel so warm and welcome because I looked up to him and saw so many amazing things he was doing in the industry. And then the best part was I watched him communicate to all these distributors, and he was letting them have it. And I was sitting back, like kind of like that chihuahua, like, yeah, get him, Donae, get him. And then he was giving me the hype. I was like, I'm gonna get him too. Here, I'm gonna go up. And it was unbelievable because he gave me so much energy, and it was great to know that even though in his success, he was having the same problem I was having in my little world. I'm only in 3,000 locations. You're in how many? Right, exactly.
No,
way more
not
than
like
that.
that.
Way more than that. No, you're in way more than that. So it was amazing to see that, amazing and disheartening, right? To see that we're going through the same things, but we still have to push through. And he gave me the energy. So when it came to taking on this position, I told the board, look, it's gotta be Donae. What I've seen him do, it's gotta be Donae. So I called him like, hey, he's like, what up, shorty? I'm like, so you're gonna be the keynote. I said it just like that. You're gonna be the keynote, and he's here today. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And of course we have to start, and this is going to be very conversational. I want you to tell everyone how you got started in this industry. How did you create the brand, and why?
First and foremost, thank you, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm so excited to see so many people in the room that I know or met before, and those that I don't or have talked to via email or DMs. Where is she? But no, seriously, it's been a pleasure to be a part of the organization, a pleasure working with you and Angela, so I'm super excited to be here. How did I get started? It was all by chance. Everything that has happened for me and Lafette has been very serendipitous. There's been a lot of synchronicity. I went to college to be an engineer, mathematics and industrial engineering degree, graduated and was then working as an IT consultant for PricewaterhouseCoopers. And then the moment September 11th happened, they started offering layoffs, and I raised my hand. It was like, I gotta get out of here. It was something I never enjoyed, but you know, you have your mom saying, you're good at math, you're good in science, be an engineer, I paid for college, give me my money back, like all those sort of things, right? So it was something I was doing because I had to, or is what I thought I should be doing. But once that happened after September 11th, I just started taking odd jobs. I was an event planner for the 100 Black Men. I was doing side parties for all the record labels that was in Atlanta, and then one day a friend called, I was working for Grand Marnier, and said, my promotional manager called out sick. Do you want to get in the club for free, drink for free? I was like, yeah. He was like, all right, you got to hand out drink tickets at one of the biggest clubs in Atlanta, and I did it. And from that moment, I was hooked on what this beverage industry was, because for me, it was a hybrid of the entertainment industry, but still had a little bit of corporate America to it. And mind you, during this time, it was in Atlanta when it was all about the music industry. So this is like early 2000s. It was 112, it was JD, it was all of that energy that was happening in the city. And I was attracted to the music industry, but didn't want to really be in it. And the beverage industry at the time was sponsoring every album release party, every diamond platinum party, all that sort of thing. So that was attractive to me. So I started handing out drink tickets literally every night. I had a team of like 4 or 5 promotional models. It was doing my thing. And I met a young lady who was working at Hennessy, and she said, hey, we're looking for a new Moet and Hennessy ambassador in Atlanta. Would you be interested? And I said yes. And that was my first foray to officially working in the wine and spirits industry. So I did that for like 2 years, went for the greener pastures in New York, started working at Heineken, realized really quick I didn't like working with peanuts on the floor and bars. I was like, this is not sexy. This is not what I signed up for. I got to get back to the wine and spirits side of things. And I was at a party in New York. And a lot of the stuff I say is not me bragging, it's just the life of what LVMH was at the time. So they sponsored Kanye West's album release party at Louis Vuitton in New York City on 5th Avenue. I went to that party and I bumped into my old boss. And he said, what do I have to do to get you to come back? And I pretended I was good. I was like, no, I'm good, I'm happy at Heineken. Wasn't happy at all. But I wasn't gonna give him that satisfaction to think like I was begging to come back. 2 weeks later, my phone rang and it was the HR director saying, I've been told I have to get you to come back. So I went back. This time he was moving me to Miami to work on Hennessy. I worked on Hennessy Cognac for a year. At the same time, I was entrusted with hosting a team from Veuve Clicquot that were in town for Art Basel. And I just connected with those ladies like I've never connected with, people I didn't know before. And they made the push to put me on Veuve Clicquot. So I was the first African-American male to ever work on Veuve Clicquot in the world. And that experience, yeah. And what really came out of that experience was the foray into luxury wine and spirits. It's a big difference when you're working on, bourbons and gins to when you start working on brands that are truly about luxury and truly about lifestyle. Because we never talked about what was in the bottle. That didn't matter. It was the feeling that we were giving consumers. It was the places we would be. So I fell in love with the luxury wine and spirits side of things. And then from there, went to work for Dom Perignon and Moet, and then Champagne Armand de Brignac, AKA Ace of Spades. And when I joined that company, it was 12 of us worldwide. That was it. That was the entire company. So we all did everything. And from that job, I learned the ins and outs of the wine and spirits business, from distributor management, pricing, like everything. We had to do everything because Jay wasn't paying people. Like he was like, hey, I'm good. Y'all go do it. So we did that. And I was traveling to the south of France working for an event that we were having during the Cannes Film Festival. I'm at this cocktail reception. I'm a little inebriated. I see an older gentleman off to the side. And this is me, I'm a Virgo. Like, I like to screw with people a little bit. So I was like, he's just sitting there looking bored. Let me go talk to him. And I said to him, what are you doing here? And he said, what are you doing here? I said, well, I'm just here to have fun. He said, well, the wines you're drinking are mine. And at that moment, the drunkenness went away, and I started to focus in on, what do you mean? He was like, I own a winery in Saint-Tropez. I make rosé. And I said, huh. I was like, well, you ever thought about making a rosé that wasn't what we saw in the United States, which at the time was all about pink and sundresses and rosé all day, and all the trivial, excuse my language, shit that comes along with bad rosé is what was, I didn't want that, right? Because I had spent so much time in France from working for the champagne brands that I saw how those consumers consumed rosé, which was much more of like, oh, let's go for an afternoon glass of rosé. Men, women, all ages, it didn't matter. But somehow in the United States, when it came here, it was all about the cliches. And he was intrigued, and he was like, yeah, sure, here's my card, call me. I didn't call him right away, and 6 months later, I emailed him, and I said, hey, I want to do this. And he said, wire me $40,000 for us to start. And I was like, what? I don't even know what you're talking about. Like, I don't know you. He was like, if you want to start, you want to do this, send me the deposit of $40,000 so I know you're serious. And I did it. I literally cleared out my 401k at the time, or whatever it was, and sent him the money. And he said, okay, now get on the plane. Oh, before that, go taste all the wines you like and the ones you don't like, send me an email, and then get on the plane, and when you get here, we'll have something for you to start with. And that's how Lefebvre was born.
Whoa.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whoa. So I have so many questions, but I'm going to stay on script because I'll be one of those politicians that'll completely get off script. I definitely want to touch on the LinkedIn post.
Okay.
So we're going to hit that, and some of you might have saw his post that went pretty viral on LinkedIn. But I'm going to start here. So you've been very open about discussing diversity and inclusion in the wine industry. Can you get more in depth about the changes that you're seeing within the industry?
Well, I think rooms like this are a great thing, right? I think this is the best part of it, is we're starting to see representation from all walks of life in wine, which traditionally we haven't seen. So that's the first thing that I really appreciate seeing. And this is all aspects. This is from working the floor in restaurants, working in wine shops, working in vineyards. Like, all of that is amazing to see, because when I started on champagne brands, I was always the only one. So this is good to see. So that's the first thing. I think what we're also starting to see is the successes that were coming during the racial justice movements of 2020 are starting to fade away. Those are the two biggest things that I think. But at the same time, you have people that are still wanting to do the right thing. But, is it performative? Is it not? I don't know.
Well, let's go there.
Okay.
So let's talk about that. Yes, now I'm the politician going off script. Here we go. So there was COVID and there was civil unrest. Mm-hmm. During that time, I remember getting emails, phone calls, of people literally Googling black women in wine. Mm-hmm. So then I was getting the calls. Prior to that, I wasn't. My online sales, it was crazy, right? So then at one point I said to myself, kind of like the housing market that happened, I don't know if all of you are old enough to know that the housing crash that happened years ago, is that gonna happen? So my first thought is this gonna end? Do you think it's ended? What are you seeing within this industry now, that change that's happening from we want to support black-owned to, because it felt like because of George Floyd, now you want to support us. But now, did you just do that for that 1 second and now we're collecting dust on the shelf and you're not going to support us? Is there a feeling of that was just a quick thing, we're not important anymore?
Well, I don't put the onus strictly on the buyers and the retailers and the distributors. There's a huge part of it that goes to the consumers, right? Because you are part of the ecosystem, and that's the bigger conversation we need to have, is how do we create that ecosystem? You screamed, you yelled, put black brands in the stores, you bought once or you bought twice, and now you're not buying anymore. So yes, the retailers are being performative, like we gotta do this because this is a movement, but what is our community doing, or what are consumers doing to continue to make sure that we're pulling off the shelves and not getting dust? In terms of performance, it's going away, hands down, wholeheartedly. I mean, they're being sued at other organizations, these companies are scared, so yes, it's going away. But at the same time, it won't go away if we can ensure that our community and consumers are continually to ask for our products, right?
And how do we do that?
I mean, listen, I'm coming from a perspective on the other side. Like, if you're buying, for me, I make a rosé. If you're buying Whispering Angel every day and then you're posting the picture of Whispering Angel and then you buy my brand one time, you're just as much the problem as the buyer at the retail store, because you screamed about support black brands and you've moved on. So if you moved on, why can't they move on? That's the part of the stuff that we have to fix, right? I think, sure, they gave us a chance. Some brands were successful, some weren't. But it's really up to the consumers, and it's also up to us as the owners. Are we doing everything to service our customers at retail the best we can, right? Because you can complain about them not supporting us, but when you look at something or things that the other big suppliers are doing, are you doing that? Are you offering up the TPRs? Are you making sure you have your merchandising teams in those stores to look the best? Are you doing social media posts and driving consumers to those stores? If we're not doing all of that, we can't just complain about what they're not doing as well. So it's a loaded question because everybody plays a part in the dysfunction.
And I always say there's so many moving parts to this industry.
Yeah.
That it almost has to be the most perfect alignment, right, of everyone running in a different lane to cross the finish line at the same time. Yeah. You have the distributors, you have the supplier, you have the consumer, but in between that, you need a broker, you need an ambassador, you need money. It's nonstop, right, of working. And you mentioned that the competition has increased significantly, and change is starting to happen within this industry. And how can competition be productive? How can it be productive, and how can it be harmful to the minority-owned brands, specifically in our industry?
Well, I'm gonna start with harmful, because the part that's harmful right now is that these companies will say, we're gonna make black brands part of our beverage programs, speaking specifically like hotels or even retailers. and they'll send out their buyers a list of 30 brands and say, now you pick. I mean, are you really giving anyone a fair shot? Are you really saying you're serious about this? Oh, and by the way, you pick, but it's optional. So yeah, you're acknowledging all of us, but then you're saying, oh, if you want to, you can. If you don't want to, we don't care either. So it's like that sort of, yes, there's competition, yes, there's more awareness, but that's the bullshit, excuse my language, of the other side of it that we have to fix. And I don't know what the answer is to that, but that's a lot of that going on. So that's the bad side of the competition. The good side of the competition is that if we can steal share away from the big guys and we all start to win and incrementally make money, that's a good thing, right? Because we can't let these monopolies and these huge companies just continue to buy up more and more brands and take up more and more shelf and take up more and more share of mind with buyers. So any pieces we can chip away at that, and I think I told you this at WSWA, I'm like, you should partner with McBride Sisters, because if y'all can go into Target and command end caps that take away from Apothic or Barefoot or whoever, that's good. That's good competition. Like, we're not in competition with each other. Let's work against the bigger guys to take share away from them, is what I want us to do.
And I love that you said that, because there sometimes is this rumor within our industry and our circle, I call it kind of the fraternity of Black-owned wines, that we are up against each other. Right. But sometimes it's literally the stores that are putting us against each other, because I get those lists. A lot of us get those lists of, okay, so the buyer's going to pick between these Black-owned brands.
With one slot.
Yep.
One slot.
One slot. And then, oh, you're not big enough, so I'm just going to put you in this one state, and I'm going to put them in 10, or I'm not going to put you in any, maybe next time. Yeah. And then it's done. So thank you for bringing that up, because that is, I never want you all to go against each other, because no, you don't have to do that. Right. And that was an amazing thing that you do not do that. Do not do that. I know, and he's not here, Brandon from Michael Lavelle, he said to me that he had a meeting with a distributor a couple of days ago, and he's like, Krishan, in that meeting, I brought you up, and I brought somebody else up, because they need to take us all. Yep. And that was unbelievable. Yep. I've never heard anybody say that before. And it was cool, because I'm like, okay, you're the younger generation, I can be your mama. And you saying that to me, you just taught me how to have that conversation.
And especially for somebody like me, I worked at LVMH, they used to release so much shit that was never going to work, and distributors would just say yes. Like, oh, we're coming up with caramel colored this, we're coming up with grape this, orange this, new bottle this, and they would just say yes, 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 yes. But for some reason, we come to the table and the distributor's saying, oh, I don't know if there's a market for that. I'm like, you just released caramel green syrup cognac, and you bought like 30,000 cases of it. Like, what are you talking about? Like, it's a lot of that sort of BS, so it's important that we do show that we're working together. And sometimes we can pretend to lie. I do this all the time and say, oh, we're a portfolio company. They're like, what? I'm like, yeah, me, Michael Lavelle, we're all in the same house. Anything to get their share of mind and their focus is what we have to do right now. And we can figure it out on the back end.
That.
Yeah.
We can call each other, text each other like, yo, look, so this is what I'm gonna need you to do. Yeah. I love that. Do you believe D&I initiatives have contributed to the success in your business, and why or why not?
Hell yeah. Because the moment they said, we're looking for brands, my team knew, you better go, and go as fast as you can. Like, do not stop, be prepared, make every presentation, don't give them the opportunity to say no, right? So, and I think that's what a lot of brands may have missed. Is this, I knew it wasn't gonna last forever, but can we be first to the table? So, every D&I initiative that came out, we applied and we took advantage of it. Some of them weren't best for the brand at the time, but they committed to the growth, or they contributed to the growth of the brand. So yes, it has. I think even still today, like from the recognition from a press standpoint, there's still great people that want to talk about our brands through a D&I lens. Sure, I'll take it. There's still companies that are, let me back up. You also have to put their backs against the wall. If they say that they want to have a D&I initiative, how much pressure are you going to put on them to really be serious about it? And pressure is not screaming outside on the news. Pressure is sitting in front of them and having real conversations and dialogue of, you said this, what do I have to do to make it successful with your program? Like, real interaction with them. Because once they know you're serious about it and they're not checking the box, or they know you're going to call them out about checking the box, it changes the dynamic. And because of the doors that have opened through D&I, we've now transitioned to just a respectable brand. So I will never shit on D&I in any way, because it opened the door. Now, once we got in the door, it was up to us to change the narrative.
And please listen to what he just said there. I scream it all the time, get certified. have the communication with the D&I. James here, I think I emailed him about 20 times, and he finally heard me, and that's why I'm in HEB now. I'm sure Donae too. If Keel was here from Total Wines & More, emailed him like 20 times, but I came in with that MBE, and it led into then having those conversations. So, and to your point, after that, now you have to work even harder. Sorry. That's just what we have to do.
Getting in is the easy part. That's literally the easy part. How do you stay in? How do you get consumers to pull off the shelf? How do you get the buyer to take you serious? Because we see brands that get added, and then the next 6 months, you see the deletion list. You'd be amazed how fast brands are turned on and turned off in this industry. Like, it's crazy.
Let's talk about that. So I'm going off script now. There is so many that I mentor that'll say, Krishan, you're on all these big stores. How do I get in the stores? And I say to them, do you understand you're going to have to spend more money as soon as you hit those stores? Do you understand that most of those large stores are just that marketing piece, actually? You're not going to make that much money. Because, some of those stars, and I'm not going to name them, are going to say, okay, now give us $50,000 for us to put just a little blurb on our website just because you're there. So let's talk about that. You get in stores. Now what do you have to do? Please walk some of the new brands here through what that looks like. So you get on the shelf to this large big box store, and then what?
I think the first thing you have to do is understand the metric by which you'll be judged with that retailer, right? So is it you have to sell 2 bottles a week on average per year, per month? Is it every ring needs to be $50? Like, you need to understand the metrics of the stores you're going into and really think about, can I make that happen? Can I meet that threshold? And what will it take? For us, we spend so much money on shelf blades. You know how you walk in the grocery store and you see that big 5x8 thing that says 90-point rated? Well, that's $40,000 for an 8-week run. Then they'll tell you need to be able to do TPRs or price reductions. You know, the sale tickets, that's not the store doing that. That's the brand's paying for that. All right, so you got to allocate a budget to that. And then we want demos and samplings on top of that. So it's another $25,000 for 75 demos.
$300 for every 3 hours.
Correct. So you add that up when you get into these big chains, and it sounds good. Like, I'm in 500 Kroger stores. Yeah, but think about what that's going to cost you from a manpower and a resource standpoint to hit that threshold of 2 bottles per week, per month, per year. You got to keep doing that. So it's a very expensive proposition, and I tell everybody, if you're not ready, don't do it. I jumped out there. I was in 400 Sam's Clubs across the country with their diversity program. It was the worst decision I ever made, ever, because I didn't have the coverage to cover an Oregon, a Tennessee, a Kentucky. I didn't have the brand awareness. I didn't have any of that. So then now, if we wanted to go back in, they would say no, because you guys didn't, 2 years ago, meet the threshold for the sales in order to be a successful brand. So it sounded good, but in hindsight, it really hurt the brand. But it's a very expensive proposition. If you don't have those dollars available once you get in, don't do it. Don't do it.
You get one shot.
You can get one shot. One shot, and then you're blackballed for 2-3 years. So think about that.
In your experience with your own consumers, do you think diversity and inclusion still matters to them?
My generation of black women, absolutely. I think the 40 plus are committed to supporting those brands. I think the younger generation has moved on, and we got to figure out a way to re-engage with them from a diversity standpoint. But there's also a segment of our peers in the on-premise that own restaurants, the black beverage managers, the black hotel managers. They aren't doing their part. And we have to talk about that, right? We have to talk about the fact that I can go to James Beard, a winning restaurant that's owned by a black man. I go look at his list, and there's not one black-owned wine brand on there. How is that possible? But I'm supposed to celebrate you being black, but you're not celebrating us. Can't do it. And the sad part is they have to be a part of the ecosystem. I'll never forget when I first launched Lafette. A good friend of mine had set up a meeting with the buyer for Milos. Milos is this Greek restaurant in New York. They have a couple of locations. And I went to him, he's like, listen, I took the meeting because you're a friend of Bruce. I only serve Greek wines. So this conversation is moot. And I appreciate it because he was basically saying, my restaurant is Greek, the ethos is Greek, I'm Greek, my cousin sells the Greek wines, I'm only selling Greek wines, so nice to meet you. We have to have that same intention as black restaurateurs, black beverage managers, black et cetera. And I'm by no means saying the entire list has to be black, but you can't find one? You can't find, do you understand how important that platform is for a brand if they go into your James Beard award-winning restaurant to see that brand listed by the glass, not on the bottle list, by the glass? That brand validation is everything. It's everything when you're first starting. And it's super frustrating for me, especially, we talked about this. I have people I've met with that will say, fine, if it doesn't sell, I'll take it off, but I'll give you a shot. We can't even get some of our black restaurateurs to even do that. And they're so beholden to the bigger name brands, and again, coming from LVMH, we ain't giving y'all shit. So you're just doing it for free. For what? There's no intention behind it. So you can't be intentional enough to support any of us, whether it be Make Me Your Well, whether it be a limited time offering, whether it be 30 days. I don't give a shit what it is. You can make a space for us to give us that platform through your vehicle. And if you can't, then don't holler and scream about black owned and supporting you, because I have no time for you. None.
I remember dealing with quite a few black-owned restaurants in Chicago years ago.
They're the
when I
worst.
first started. The worst. I love Chicago. Anybody recording? I love Chicago.
They might be top of the list as being the worst.
And this is what hurt me. So they took in a case of wine and they said, okay, Krishan, so we need you here now for the next 2 weeks doing tastings to move through this one case.
You ain't never seen none about it.
You never asked Gallo to do that. You never asked any other brand to do that. But I'm the one black woman owned, drove all the way out to the suburbs here in Chicago to bring you a mixed case.
Yeah.
And I have to do a tasting all the time. Oh, and post your restaurant nonstop all over my social media.
Yeah.
That hurts. That hurts.
But we have to continue to call them out, right? I'm done protecting people. Like, I think that's a big mistake we've made in the black community of, shh, let's not talk about it. No, let's talk about it. Let's talk about the fact that these restaurants and chefs and hoteliers and beverage managers and even white women who have benefited, like we have to, in the on-premise space, I'm speaking strictly on-premise at this point, we have to call everyone to the table because post-2020, we all benefited. We all benefit. There was a spotlight put on all of us. So let's continue to pay it forward or even pay it back to give us all an equal platform and shine some light on us so we can go forward. And if it's nasty, tell me. If my wine is shit, I have no problem with you telling me it's shit. Oh, this is some nasty shit. I can't put this on my list. I just can't do it. But I don't believe you can really say that to me when I'm in Noble Hotel, I'm in Four Seasons, I'm in Auberge Resorts, I'm in Delta Airlines, I'm in Disneyland. But I come to you and you say, it's not a good fit for my restaurant. How, bro? How? So we have to call each other out, and we have to call each other out publicly. We can no longer do the pretending, because the pretending is getting old.
Now, did you guys catch that mad flex he just did? Oh, I'm in Disney World.
I mean, but that's how I feel. Like, that's how I walk in that restaurant. When they tell me it doesn't fit, I'm like, fit where? I mean, I love you, bro, but look at your menu and look where I'm telling you I am. Like, come on.
I love that. I love that. Sorry, I got to put on my readers, y'all. I can barely see. So now we got to hit the LinkedIn.
Oh.
Okay. So when you say, and I quote, do the necessary work to improve our industry and make it the best it can be, what does that look like to you? And what can everyone in this room do to contribute to that?
For me, it's a lot of collaboration. I think it's a lot of collaboration with distributors. It's a lot of collaboration with retailers. I think, one, we have to make everybody feel comfortable. A lot of these conversations, a lot of times, can feel like we're attacking each other. So I think first we have to remove that so we can have real, insightful conversations about what needs to be done. And a lot of times it's about asking about what am I doing wrong, right? Or what can we do better? And those are the conversations that we don't tend to have. But I think if we do that, the industry will get a lot better. But diversity is first and foremost part of it. Someone who's been in the industry for over 20 years, to see more women come into this, to see more people of color, that's step number one, right? Because you sell brands that you connect with, if you're on a distributor standpoint. If you're a buyer, you buy brands that you connect with. And until you can start to see representation in those levels of the business, it can't necessarily get better, right? I never forget when I launched Lafayette, I had a distributor manager in DC told me black people didn't drink rosé. I said, would you ever tell a Jewish person they didn't drink kosher wine? Yeah. She goes, no. I'm like, then how do you feel that you have the nerve to tell me that black people don't drink rosé? So it's those sort of things. Like, we have to change the dynamics and the structures I'm not saying tear it down and burn it to the ground. That's not what I want in any means, but certainly having open dialogue, having open conversation, mentoring and coaching is everything. I think, we have to tell the next generation how to succeed from what we learned, or someone needs to mentor us. Not need, but we should, right? And those are the ways that we really make the industry better, because the consumers are diverse, and some of these brands are, Hennessy is making billions a year with 65% of the consumers being Latin and African American, the other 35% being Asian. I can tell you from working in that building, it ain't nowhere near that. There might be 2 black people that actually work for the brand, and the rest of them are ambassadors. So they're low level, no influence. Like, all those sort of things have to change if we're gonna really make the industry better.
I want you to touch a little more on what you talked about in collaboration. You have a room here of amazing, amazing brands, SOMs, new professionals, people who are thinking about getting in this industry, writers, we have buyers, we have brokers, we have DEI. What does collaboration look like to you? Tell us what to do.
Tell you, oh wow. Listen, as writers, let's start talking about brands, as big brands, as well-liked brands, well-made brands, because I understand that the box is the hook, but it's also a box that locks us in, right? It's for new consumers that have never heard about Lafette or Love Corkscrew. If they Google us right now, and every article talks about us just being a black-owned wine. As open-minded and as liberal as we think the world, even America is, it's not, right? And they see that, and they say, oh, I don't have that consumer that comes in here. Well, what fucking consumer is that? Like, I just don't want. So from a writer standpoint, like, if we can help to move beyond that and just start talking about the brands as brands, this amazing brand, that'd be step one. I think from the workforce is people that are getting into wine, go work in those spaces that we're not wanted. Make yourself uncomfortable. Change is uncomfortable. You have to make yourself uncomfortable, because one, you'll learn a lot about yourself. You'll learn a lot about the other side that you can then bring back to, say, if you want to open a restaurant or a wine shop or a wine bar, of how that was done. How will you differentiate yourself? Or best practices, right? So I think a lot of it is that sort of thing, is like, let's make ourselves uncomfortable to get comfortable again, whatever that means.
And I always say that there's so many moving parts within this industry. When I got started so many years ago, I couldn't find not one lawyer that had the ability to create the license that nowadays you can literally just go online and get a TTP permit, right? Yep. When I started, no, you had to spend $10,000 to go see the lawyer to then figure it out. To push through paperwork from the vineyard to become a supplier. So there's so many moving parts. There's still a very small niche of black distributors, but it seems like there's more people that want to own a brand, but don't know all the moving parts there.
Then don't do it. Listen, this is another real part of the conversation. If you haven't spent the time to learn the industry, don't do it. This is not an industry to jump into and you have no clue. I did it, you did, we all did it, but like, it was an expensive, long lesson. So I get so many people like, I want to start a whiskey brand. Have you ever worked in wine and spirits? Have you worked in a wine and spirits shop? Have you worked in a bar? If you've done none of those things, don't do it. This is not Instagram makeup. Like, that's the other thing. Instagram has screwed everybody up. Everybody is like, I'm an Instagram businessman, billionaire. Like, you have got to like, do the work in this industry, because it's a 3-tier system. You don't control your product once it lands at the distributor. At all.
At all.
By law, you don't own that product. You can't tell them to do shit. They can tell you, I'm gonna go sell it for $2 if they wanted to, and there's nothing you can do about it. And you have to understand that.
Bars. So we have to wrap this up, because I'm gonna keep going. So I apologize for wrapping those, because there's so much. This man has so much information. And during this symposium, I want you all to really take advantage of who you have in the room. Amazing successes like Donae. It's nice just to kiki and take a picture, but please ask him the questions. Even if you've been in the industry forever, even if you've just started or you're thinking about it, he has so much knowledge from so many parts within the industry that you really need to pick his brain. So I promise, Angela, I'm gonna go very quick. These are really, really simple, quick, fun questions. What's your favorite wine?
Lafette.
Okay, almost done. Wait, hold on, readers. Okay, here we go. Okay, favorite part about creating your own wine brand?
Going to San Tropez 4 times a year.
Why do you think rosé gets a bad reputation in the wine world, and what do you have to say to the rosé all day haters?
White Zinfandel.
And that's it. That's where we'll end it. Thank you, Donae.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.